Hari Om. In today's recording, we will carry on with Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, from verse 4 onwards. Now, please keep in mind that the title of this chapter is Ch13 and Ch13. Vibhaga. Vibhaga means to know the difference between Ch13 and Ch13. What are these two terms? Basically, the entire creation, everything in this creation is only made out of two components. One is matter, which has many different technical names. So in the scriptures, there are many different terminologies used for matter. You will hear things like Prakriti. In this chapter 13, matter is also called Kshetra, the field. So there are different terms, but you should not get confused. Just whatever terms are used, just understand there is only one component called matter. And the second component in this creation is called consciousness. Again, consciousness has got many technical terms. In chapter 13, the word Kshetrajna, knower of the field, is used for consciousness. There are other terms called Purusha, which also means consciousness. Atma means consciousness. So different technical terms are there, but at the end of the day, just understand that the whole creation is a mixture of matter plus consciousness. Now, since there are two components, even this body is made up of matter and consciousness. Everything in creation is matter and consciousness. What we need to know is what is the difference between matter and consciousness. I'll give you a few differences. Example, matter is inert, it has no life. Consciousness has got life. Matter is subject to change. Consciousness is changeless. So if we look at this body, we can understand body is matter. Mind is matter. Creation, nature is matter because it is constantly changing. And what is it in this body that gives this body life is the consciousness or Atman. So having known the nature of matter and the nature of consciousness, which is what this chapter 13 is going to talk about, the differences in these two, an intelligent spiritual being should then question, am I matter or am I consciousness? Because you can't be both. Since matter is changing and temporary, consciousness is changeless and eternal, you cannot be both. So you have to start questioning yourself, who am I? Am I this temporary, changing, limited body, or am I the eternal, changeless consciousness? This is the objective of this chapter. So with this understanding, which we will now go into verse number 4 of chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Krishna is glorifying this knowledge, meaning the knowledge of difference between matter and consciousness. And where is this knowledge found? It is given in our scriptures. Okay, so whereas all other knowledge, beside the knowledge from the scriptures, when we get knowledge from all other branches of knowledge like science, mathematics, geography, etc., they do not deal with consciousness. They only deal with matter. So it is only the scriptures that explain to us what is this consciousness principle. So Krishna says, if you want to have a complete knowledge about this creation, then you can only get it from the scriptures, which give you both the nature of matter and the nature of consciousness. So the Lord says he pays tribute to all the great sages who throughout the centuries have been expounding this knowledge about Prakriti and Purusha, or matter and consciousness. So the Lord says here in this verse number 4, this knowledge has been Gitam, has been sung or has been recited So you will find that many of the scriptures like the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, etc., they are composed in a very poetic form. So the Lord says this knowledge has been expressed by Gita, has been sung or has been recited Bahuda in various ways. In many ways, that means through various means, through various scriptures. Who have who are the ones who have recited this knowledge about matter and consciousness? The Lord says Rishihis. Gitam Bahuda Rishi. Rishi here means the great sages. And many sages are mentioned in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, like sage Vashishta, sage Vishwamitra. These are the great sages and saints who have constantly delivered this knowledge about matter and consciousness through various means, using different terminology. And even the Gita itself, the Bhagavad Gita, has got the word Gita in it because the Lord sung it in a very poetic form. So the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna has been presented in a form of poetry. So this knowledge has been sung by various means, by various sages. And where do we find this knowledge? Because the sages expounded this knowledge to the students, and they memorized this knowledge. And finally, Ved-Vyasa came along, collected all these various knowledge, and codified it, partitioned it into the Vedas. So, where is this declaration of the rishis to be found? The Lord says Vividhe. Vividhe means in different kinds of Chandobhi. Chandobhi means Vedic texts. The texts of the Vedas are called Chandas because they are put in a poetic form. So all the Vedic mantras in the Vedas were received as divine revelations from the Lord. The Lord revealed this extremely supreme knowledge to selected sages who in turn repeated it or recited it to their disciples, who in turn memorized it, and Ved-Vyasa came, collected these various sayings and codified it into the Vedas. So Lord says the words of the sages are all contained in the Vedic texts. So the Vedas are the most ancient source of this knowledge. And not only the Vedas talk about this, so Lord says Ch13. Ch13 means but also the same knowledge can be found in Padhe. Padhe means any text or literature. And there are specific texts because here the Lord mentions sutras or aphorisms called Brahman, aphorisms about Brahman. So there are many texts that concentrate. Aphorisms means a short, concise text that reveals a great truth. And these Brahma Sutras, there are many sutras which deal specifically with Brahman. Brahman means the absolute reality. One of the most famous sutras about Brahman itself is called Brahma Sutra, which is about 550 verses and written by the great sage Vyasa. But like that, there are also many other texts which are called sutras, which deal exclusively with Brahman also. So these texts, they don't talk about worldly goals or how to find pleasures in the world or in how to get to heaven and enjoy pleasures. They talk about how to merge with that supreme reality. So they don't talk about rituals and prayers and things like that. They deal directly with the knowledge of how to attain Brahman. So the Lord says it's knowledge about Brahman or what we call consciousness is found in the Vedic texts and also other texts that deal exclusively with Brahman. And how is this knowledge presented? Is it very complicating? Is it very complex? No, the Lord says this knowledge is presented prathak. Prathak means the instructions given in the scriptures are very clear, they're very distinct, given in great detail. There is no vagueness in the teachings. If there is any doubt, it is in our minds, it is not in the teachings. So the teachings outline very specifically what is matter, what is consciousness. In great detail, the sages have outlined these teachings and they are all contained in the scriptures. There is no confusion in these teachings. And how is it that there's no confusion in these teachings? Lord says that although these declarations have been clearly defined, but they have been presented as hetum adbir, which means through logical reasoning. Many examples and thought-provoking concepts are presented. For example, in order to explain Brahman, which is consciousness, which is unmanifest, scriptures give us example by comparing Brahman with space or comparing Brahman with light. So if we understand the nature of light, we understand the nature of space, we can understand through this reasoning what is the nature of Brahman. And many other beautiful examples have been given also in so many texts. There is one called Drishya Viveka, very beautiful logical reasoning given about this consciousness, the nature of this consciousness. So it is not just declaring statements, but backing this up with very logical reasoning, intellectual reasoning. And Lord says these hetu madbir, these logical reasonings are vinischite. They are very, very convincing. So convincing that they will remove all the doubts of the student or the seeker. So as long as we follow with dedication, receive these teachings from a bona fide master, and we reflect consistently and seriously on the teachings, we will get to understand them. And not only will we get to understand the nature of consciousness, we will also end up experiencing what is this consciousness. And the person who has understood and experienced himself as the consciousness, one of the descriptions given was Tita Prajna. Krishna described the nature of this person, this Tita Prajna, in the closing 18 verses of chapter 2. This is the person who's gone through the study of the scriptures under the guidance of a guru and has come to experience that Aham Brahma Asmi, Aham Atma Asmi. I am the consciousness. So the Lord says these profound words are to be studied and deeply reflected upon. So now from verse number 5, in verse number 5, Krishna will speak about first the nature of matter. So first he talks about Ch13 or matter or Prakriti, whatever you want to call it, it's just matter. So first of all in verses 5 and 6, Krishna will speak about matter. And he says matter is always changing, but we must understand that matter, although it is changing, it is never totally destroyed. So matter can never be totally destroyed. Even this whole creation, which is made up of matter, at the end of the pralaya or the destructive cycle, when the earth, the total creation comes to an end, the creation is never destroyed. It goes back from manifest to unmanifest. It remains in seed form. And then at the time of creation, everything that is unmanifest becomes manifest again. Just like the tree, when it dies, it becomes a seed. And then later the seed sprouts again as a tree. And this is also mentioned in chapter 9 verses 18 and 19. So you can read that up. How the whole creation goes from manifest to unmanifest, unmanifest to manifest. It is never totally destroyed. An example we can think about is water. When you boil water, water disappears, but it is not destroyed. It has merely been converted to vapor. So this is the difference. One is visible, water is visible, vapor is not visible. But it does not mean that water has been destroyed, because if you condense the vapor, it becomes water again. So this cycle, this world's cycle goes on from manifest to unmanifest, unmanifest to manifest. This cycle doesn't stop, it goes on. So pralaya means total dissolution, Mahapralaya, total dissolution, which will become Mahashrushti, next creation. And Shrushti will again go back to Pralaya. So this basic matter that goes from manifest to unmanifest, back and forth, this basic matter is called Prakriti. Okay? And many terms are given for this Prakriti. Again, as I said before, you can call it Ch13, you can call it Avyaktam, you can call it Shakti, you can call it Maya. So many words are used. In this verse 5, Lord uses the term Avyaktam, okay, to talk about this matter. Okay? So we must understand the evolution of matter from unmanifest to manifest goes through a gradual process. Okay? The transformation goes through several stages. Okay? So cause becomes effect, and it goes through several stages, just like the seed first sprouts some what you call sapling, then from sapling it becomes a little tree, and then a little small tree or brush or whatever you call it, and then from that it becomes a big tree, and it sprouts fruits and flowers, etc. So now let us see the components of this creation. What is Kshetra? Okay? And this teachings also follow what is known as the Sankhya philosophy. In Sankhya philosophy, which is expounded by sage Kapila, there are 24 components which are part of this matter, part of Kshetra. So here also Krishna is talking about that. Okay. Now, first of all, let us understand this. Now, it is better that you take a sheet of paper and start writing this down, because it can get very complicated. So please take a sheet of paper and write this down. First, when the creation started, there was single matter called Prakriti. Nothing else besides Prakriti existed. So what happened is, from the first stage of Prakriti, it became activated to Mahat. So what do we mean by that? Just like a seed becomes a sprout, from Prakriti came Mahat. Okay? So these are just technical terms to help us understand how the whole creation came about. So first there was Prakriti, Prakriti evolved to Mahat. Then from Mahat came Ahamkara, the third component or the third transition. Now so far, Prakriti, Mahat and Ahamkara are all inert. They don't have any life force in them. Okay. So then now what happens? Now you have to pay close attention. First there was one Prakriti, became one Mahat, became one Ahamkar. Now from Ahamkar is split into three different three different aspects. So from Ahamkar came Satvik Ahamkar, Rajasic Ahamkar, Tamasic Ahamkar. Now it is split into three components. So what is Satvik Ahamkar? From Satvik Ahamkar came Manas, or the mind. So please understand that this Manas or mind is not just one mind, it is the total cause or the total material that became all the multiple minds. So here we are talking about one element called Manas, which came from Satvik Ahamkara, became Manas, and from this one Manas became all the multiple minds of multiple human beings, animals, insects, etc. Okay? Then from Rajasic Ahamkar came the 10 sense organs. Okay? Now what are the 10 sense organs which came from Rajasic Ahamkar? 5 are called organs of knowledge, all known as Jnana Indriyas. What are they? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. So again, this is the matter. From that matter came everybody's eyes, everybody's ears, everybody's nose, etc. So 5 sense organs which are known as Jnana Indriyas plus 5 organs of action, that is hands, feet, vocal cords, organ of excretion, organ of reproduction. These are known as Karmendriyas. So that is total of 10, which came from where? Rajasic Ahamkars. And all this also is mentioned so beautifully in a text written by Adi Shankaracharya. If you want to read more further on this, is that the text is called Tattva Bodha. Okay, and then from Tamasic Ahamkar now came Dasa Bhutani. Dasa means 10, Bhutani means elements. So these elements also, 5 are subtle, 5 are gross. Okay. So what are the 5 subtle and gross elements we will see. So now let us total up everything. So there is 1 manas, 1 mind, 10 sense organs, 10 elements become 21. Okay. So to this 21 we add Prakriti, 1 Mahat, 1 Ahamkar. To this 21 you add the 3, you get 24 components. All these 24 components are part of Ch13 or matter. And all these 24 are subject to change. One becomes the cause, the other becomes the effect. That becomes the cause, another becomes the effect. So now Kshetra has been described. Where is Kshetrajna? Kshetrajna is beyond this cause and effect. It is not part and parcel of this cause and effect. Okay? And what is this Kshetrajna? The Kshetrajna is consciousness, which is the observer or the Sakshi or the witness of everything in this creation. Okay? So at this point, let us understand that. Now, with this understanding, if you've written the notes of the 24 components, now you can match them up with the teachings of Krishna in verse number 5. You will see then the same 24 components are mentioned, some using different terms, okay, but they mean the same as the Samkhya philosophy. So let us look at the terms that Krishna has used in verse number 5. The first component of Kshetra he talks about is Avyaktam, which is found in the second line of the Sanskrit text. Avyaktam refers to that Prakriti, that one Prakriti or matter that existed right at the beginning of creation. Okay? The whole origin of the whole creation. Second, and don't forget another thing is, in chapter 14 it will be also explained that this Prakriti contains the 3 gunas also. Second component that the Lord describes is called Buddhi or intellect. Okay? Third component is Ahamkar. So Ahamkar does not refer to the individual ego, but Ahamkar refers to the total ego. So everybody's ego has come from this one total Ahamkar. Okay? And then the next component that the Lord talks about here is called Ekam. Ekam means the mind or manas, okay, which came from the sattvic aspect of Ahamkar. So from Ahamkar came Ekam, which refers to manas. Next is Indriyani Dasa. Dasa means 10, Indriyani means senses, which I explained to you earlier, are the 5 Karmendriyas and 5 Jnanendriyas. Next description given there of matter is Mahabhutani. Maha means great, Bhutani means elements. Again, these are the 5 elements which represent the 5 subtle elements. What are the 5 subtle elements? Space, air, fire, water, earth. So then these 5 elements which are subtle became gross. What are the gross forms of these elements are described in this verse 5 as Pancha Indriya Gochara. Pancha, 5 Indriya senses, Gochara, objects. And these are in the form of touch, sound, form, taste and smell. So, example, from space came sound, from air came touch, from fire came form, from water came, uh, no, from earth came smell, and from water came uh, sound, taste. From water came taste. So each of the five subtle elements led to five gross elements. So now you total up all this which are given in verse 5. You will find again 24 components. So what all is 24 components? These are Kshetra or matter. Okay. Now let us look at verse number 6. Where Krishna goes on to describe more about matter. Okay. And um, here basically Krishna is emphasizing more about the nature or the attributes of the mind. Why? Because that is the most important powerful weapon that we have, which can lead to our bondage or can lead to our liberation. So if we understand the nature of the mind, then we can understand how to control it. If not, it will lead us to repeated bondages. In the Amrita Bindu Upanishad, verse number 1, it is written, Mana eva manushanam karanam bandham cha mokshaya. Mana eva, mind is verily karanam, the cause, manushanam, of human beings, bandham, bondage, or the very same mind is the cause of mokshayo, of liberation. Depending how we use this mind, you can create bondage or you can create liberation also. So these are the emotions that Lord is talking about that belong mainly to the mind, which is part of Kshetram also. Okay. So first is Ichha, which is desire or attachment, because the mind constantly throws up this hankering. Will I get this? How do I get this? Will this become mine? How do I hold on to this? Always that Ichha, that kind of desire, which is always a quality of the mind, okay, to make you to desire things. Next quality of the mind is, and all these are subject to change, okay, Dvesha. Dvesha means hatred or aversion. It is a modification of desire. When you desire something badly and something comes as an obstruction to your desire, you begin to hate or abhor that. Sukham, pleasure or happiness, when everything is going according to what you like, when all your desires are being fulfilled, your mind is experiencing pleasure. Or sometimes dukkham, sorrow, unhappiness, opposite of sukham, when, example, people are there who we don't like, or we are not agreeable to certain discomforts with objects, with climate, etc. Next quality is samghatas, which is the assemblage of the entire components of the whole body, which nature of that also affects the nature of the mind when the body is subject to birth, to growth, to disease, to decay. So all this is going on without your control, because the body is made up of the five elements and the five elements are subject to constant change. This body is called Shariram. Krishna said in chapter 13 verse 1, Idam Shariram Kaunteya. This body is called Shariram, which means in Sanskrit the word Shariram means that which is continuously disintegrating. So as you all know, teeth will decay and fall, hair will turn white, etc. Next component of this Kshetra, Lord says, is Chetana, sentience or consciousness. Now we have to understand this very clearly. As we said earlier, matter is inert, it has no life. But matter has the capacity for consciousness to express itself. Okay? So matter is present everywhere. It is outside the body, it is also inside the body. But that matter which is inside the body needs this body to express its presence. Example, electricity by itself cannot shine. If there is just electricity, it cannot shine. But when electricity passes through a light bulb, there is a glow. Okay? So electricity expresses itself through the light bulb. So similar way, consciousness in the body is known as reflected consciousness. There is an original consciousness in this body, the Atman, and then there is a reflection of that consciousness also, which is technically known as Chidabhasa. Okay. Now, example, if you look at it, at time of death, when the subtle and when the mind has left the gross body, the consciousness is there. It is not that there is no consciousness in the body. It is inside and outside the body. But at the time of death, the mind equipment, which is the subtle body, leaves the body. Then the consciousness has no means of expressing life. Okay. So this also is given in chapter 15, verses 7 and 8. You can read it for more explanation. So the Atman does not have a medium to express itself. Similarly, I give you an example. When electricity is there in the light bulb, but the filament of the light bulb has blown, what happens is there is no expression of electricity. It is not that electricity is not there. It is because electricity does not have the medium to express itself. Next quality is dhriti, which means willpower, fortitude, perseverance. So this is the unique power of the mind also to go through any challenges in life. It is the nature of the mind that once you put your strong will on anything, you will be driven to accomplish that. So Lord says all this, all etat, meaning all this, meaning all the 24 components which were described in chapter 13 verse 5, savikaram, together with their manifestations or modifications which are given in chapter 13 verse 6, all these, the Lord says, are called Ch13, field, matter, prakriti, whatever you want to call it. It's all these fall under one aspect, Ch13. The Lord says, and I have udharitam, I have spoken about samasena briefly. So briefly, Krishna has talked about Ch13. Now from the next verse onwards, verse 7, he's going to start talking about Kshetrajna. Okay? And then at the next lesson, the next recording, we will go into chapter 13, verse 7. Hari Om Tat Sat.